In this video, I discuss 7 tips for you to live comfortably on Social Security alone. Coming up next on Holy Schmidt.
Holy Schmidt!
A lot of people go into retirement and they have nothing but Social Security to their name. I see this a lot in the comment section here on this channel. I also see some not so nice responses when people talk about this. Let me begin by saying that if this is you, if you're going into retirement with only Social Security, don't spend another minute thinking about what you could have done. You can't change the past. And it's unhealthy to continue to think about, ruminate over what you could have done differently. The point is, from here onward, you need to take action. And this video will help you take action. And I know it goes without saying, but each person's situation is different than another's, and no one should judge anyone for where they are in their own station in life. So I'm going to present to you 7 elements from a minimalist lifestyle. I'll have a book out on this at some point soon, but these will help you understand some of the areas where you should, in fact, focus your time if you are going into retirement with only Social Security. All right, let's get into it. But before we do, please make sure you click subscribe and turn on notifications so that you get alerted the next time I post a video. I post about twice a week. All right, let's go. Point number 1, pay off all high interest rate debt ASAP. This means credit card debt for most of you. To someone in retirement, debt is a financial anchor. And it may seem easier to someone to pay the minimum on their credit card and just not worry about it until next month than to work to pay it down. The problem with this is that even though you're making the minimum payment, your payment from Social Security is quite modest. So having a credit card payment of any type has a dramatic effect on what you can spend every month. Let me give you an example. If you have a $5,000 balance on a credit card and you're paying 21%, which is pretty typical, your minimum payment is about $125 per month. If you have a $10,000 balance, your minimum payment is $250 per month. You understand how the math works. This is the minimum payment. This is not what it takes to get the thing paid down. It's what you need to do to keep them from calling you and trying to take your stuff. In other words, you need to really focus on paying that credit card off. This is job number 1 for most of you. Sell something on eBay. Work a part-time job where you're making $500 a month. Draw on savings bonds. Each of your choices probably is better than paying 21% on a credit card. And by the way, on my previous video, I discussed what the average Social Security payment is for someone in 2022, or the projected average, and it was $1,657. If you have a $125 minimum payment, that equates to 8% of your Social Security payment. If you have a $250 minimum payment, well, that's 16%. So skip some dinners out. Don't go on a trip. Job number 1 is getting your credit card paid off, because once you do, it frees up that money so that you can actually have a better trip or maybe more dinners out. Point number 2 is understanding what the states provide retirees, particularly your state, but also understand what other states that you might be interested in provide their retirees. For example, Alaska has a senior benefits program which pays seniors of modest income a certain amount per month. The funds are not tied to a particular service or program. The retiree can use the funds for whatever they need the funds for. They just need to qualify, and how much they have in income is the trigger for that program. I put a link in the description to a lot of state programs. I'll remind you again at the end of the video to check that so you'll know what states are offering in 2022. Along those same lines, healthcare is vastly important and really underanalyzed by most retirees. And where you live does matter. If you think about the big 3 of healthcare, access, quality, and cost, those 3 elements vary wildly depending on which state you're in. In fact, I'll put another link in the description which suggests that Minnesota is the best state for a retiree when it comes to the big 3. Lastly, there are many other organizations that provide free money or services. These include low-income energy assistance, HUD, even the IRS, and many, many more. Again, link in the description for you to check those out. The next point is understanding 3 numbers, 70, 100, and 124. If you draw Social Security at age 62, you get 70% of what you would receive at full retirement age. If you draw Social Security at full retirement age, you get 100% of what you would receive at full retirement age, of course. And if you wait until age 70, you get 124% of what you would receive at full retirement age. Now, no one's saying that you need to wait until 70, but conversely, you may want to wait longer than age 62. It depends on your individual situation, of course. Other deciding factors are your health, or if you want to unlock the spousal benefit because your spouse can't draw on the spousal benefit until you draw on your primary benefit. And of course, if you just need the money, which may be the case for many of you, drawing earlier versus later may in fact be a necessity, not an option. Point number 4, OPM, other people's money. Now this is used in many different ways. I call it a trigger word because whenever you hear it, people get fascinated by the concept, which is somehow, somewhere, you benefit by using other people's money. Well, it works the same way, but in reverse. If other people are benefiting from your money and you're not required to give them your money, make sure that you put the monkey back on the back of the person whose back it belongs on. I'm not sure I could say that 3 times fast, but the point is this. If you're supporting someone who can support themselves, or you're helping support someone who can support themselves, and it's causing you financial stress, perhaps it's time to help them help themselves. And you have to hear me here. I'm not suggesting that someone who is incapable of taking care of themselves falls into the category of OPM. In that situation, it's best to talk to a financial planner and ask for their help. But for the vast majority of people who are receiving payments from mom and dad, brother, sister, aunts, and uncles, they are capable of going out and finding a job. They just choose not to. Point 5 is cancel all automatic subscriptions, 100% of them. And wait 30 days. If you still need them, then consider signing up again. This may sound harsh, but auto-subscribe services are designed to keep you paying even if you're not utilizing the service. For those of you who belong to a health club, when was the last time you worked out? If you have an online magazine subscription, when was the last time you went on to read that magazine subscription? And if you belong to a Book of the Month club, Wine of the Month club, Lighthouse of the Month club, are you really utilizing that service? Or do you receive the package and it just goes into a corner to be used later? Wait 30 days. If you find that you really miss it, well then maybe it's time to resubscribe. My guess is for most of those line items, you won't even know that they're gone. The next point is sell the car, call an Uber. A car is expensive. You have insurance, you have parking, you have upkeep, maintenance, you have car payments, you have fuel. So unless there's a reason for you to have a car, and that usually revolves around safety, if you need to have access to medical care, for example, well, that would be an exception. But for most of you, not having a car doesn't mean you've lost your freedom, not in this day and age. Get the Uber app. If you live in a major city or you live in a small town, 20 years ago, if I had said, sell the car, call a taxi, I couldn't have told you that and felt good about telling you that because there's a lot of time lost with a taxi. Worse yet, if you lived in a major city, you'd have to stand in the cold and hold your hand out, hoping that one didn't suddenly go off duty as it drove past you. Back then, if you called a taxi, it might come from 1 or 2 dispatchers in your town or in your city, and you might have to wait a long, long time, maybe even an hour, maybe even 2 hours. Depends on what was going on. There was one central dispatch. They owned the cars, they owned the licenses, and they owned the market. It was really expensive. But with the creation of Uber and Lyft and others like those two, the internet of taxi services was born. Now you pull up the app and the drivers fight for your business, not the other way around. Uber doesn't have a vested interest in sending driver A versus driver B to you, or sending someone from the Upper East Side to the Lower West Side because they're trying to do a favor for a friend. Uber just looks at the data and they say, this car is near this person, let's put them together. And in this day and age, there are a lot of Uber drivers. There are a lot of people that are trying to make extra money. So most of the time, it's super easy and quick to get an Uber driver. And Uber and Lyft make owning a car optional, even if you live in the suburbs, maybe even if you live out in the country, depending on where you live. As I said before, unless, of course, you need a car for safety reasons. The next point is the one thing. I call it the Curly and Billy Crystal point. For those of you that know the actor Billy Crystal, he starred in a movie called City Slickers. And at the end of the movie, Billy Crystal is riding on the back of a horse next to a cowboy, a true cowboy named Curly. And Curly is giving him his philosophy on life. And he looks at Billy Crystal and he says, "Find the one thing." And he holds up his finger and points to the sky. Billy Crystal says, "The one thing, what's that?" And he said, "It's different for everyone." For many, the one thing is where they spend all of their time and their money. And they actually even spend more money usually on that one thing, but because they're spending their time as well, they're not finding a use for their time and money elsewhere. An example might be buying an RV so that you can tour America, or getting into gardening so that you can spend time outside really interacting with nature. Others want to be master model builders, collect rare coins for fun and profit, learn the technology that they didn't learn before so that they're smarter than their 22-year-old grandson or granddaughter. Or at least they can communicate with them through FaceTime instead of the old-fashioned telephone call. The net result is that by spending a little more, the retiree saves a lot more in many cases. Because bright, shiny objects come in the form of projects that never get finished. Esoteric hobbies that people think they want to engage in but just don't spend the time, really spend the time engaging in. They spend 10 minutes a week on a very expensive project, expecting that they'll do more tomorrow, the mañana syndrome, but tomorrow never comes. As a reminder, don't forget to check the description below. I have quite a few links that you'll find interesting. Also, check out this video on what to do if you are 60 years old and you have absolutely no retirement savings. This is Geoff Schmidt. Thanks for watching.